Hello, just Frogget here. I am just here to do a small video on how I have my yarn winder, how I'm going to reball my yarn with it. This is a heavier duty one. This actually is a really big size. You can do a humongous skein on it and still have extra space. It is mostly all metal gears and stuff. This is the only plastic piece is where the yarn goes on, and then the plastic handle that turns as you turn. So this is the arm that stays stationary. This is the one that rotates around. Then there's two little notches in the top here that you put your yarn through, so you have a center pulling ball. I am going to start off by rewinding this ball of green that I've been using for my Afghan blanket, just because it's getting down to the center and it'll start having a whole bunch of slip knots and stuff in it. So I have the end, I'm pulling from the center of the ball so it's easier. It won't roll all around on me. So what we first do is you put it through the very top one, okay, so that your end is going in towards the machine, and then you go through the bottom one. Now I like it to be away from me, so you take your end and you hold it on the other side, then you rotate this around so it's through that eye as well. So it's going through both of these with the tail facing in. Then you take your tail, just the end of it, you slip it through these two slits on the top, make sure it's in there nice and tight, and then you're going to just pull your tension a little bit. So to get this thing going, all you have to do is start turning it. I turn it away from me, and the machine does the whole thing for you. So you're just going to start turning it a little here. Just keep your, I'm holding my yarn off this camera here near the ball just to keep the tension right for it going into the machine. And you just rotate, and once we get going here, you can go as fast as you'd like. I have this just clamped to a tray table, like a TV tray table, just a wooden one. So now that we've got this ball started, we can actually go a bit faster, and you can actually go really fast with this thing, and it makes amazing yarn cakes. I like doing this with the color changing yarn because it's fascinating how the colors change as it goes on to the machine as well. So let's just keep going here. I have a couple balls here to show you with on how the machine winds it. I'm actually just going to put my fingers up here and hold this bar from making noise on the table. And you just rotate it around. And we're going to go until we get really close to the end. So I still have quite a bit of this green yarn, so it's going to make a fairly good sized cake. And then I have another blue one that I have as well. And then I have a light green that I need to reball at the same time. But I'm just going to put my foot down here, hold the table more steady. Okay, let's keep going with this. Now this bigger ball winder, you can actually, I got it on eBay, I believe, but I've had it for a few years now, so I don't even know if I still have the link for it. But if you go on Amazon or eBay and just type it in the search area, it should bring up a whole bunch of different ones, and then just look for the ones that are mostly metal that do bigger yarn. So we're getting closer here. It doesn't take long to do a See, I'm getting close where it's getting all tangled. So all I do is I untangle it, and then I can continue on. I'm just going to untangle the rest of this here, and then we will continue working this ball. There's a slip knot in there, see? And then I will do another ball here for you. So I'm just going to do these 3 balls that I mentioned, and then I will end this video. I just wanted to show you, because I know there's quite a few people that are curious as to, because I know everybody's seen those little plastic ones that suction cup to a table or something, but they don't do very big. You can't do a lot of yarn on them. These ones here, you can do a full skein of yarn and it will take it no problem. So, but this one here was a big huge ball, so it only, you have the big huge balls you can turn into like 1 2/3 balls of a cake or something, because it won't take the whole ball, but it'll take quite a bit of it. So there we go, we got it all untangled. And now we are going to continue on. Just make sure the yarn's tight still. Oh, there's the end of the yarn. So when it gets to the end here, I'm just going to bring it around and I'm going to show you how I tie in the ends. So I'm just going to find a crochet hook here. So all I do is I take the hook end, I put it down through the yarn ball, just near the outside, and pull it through, and then I grab that end and I turn it and I bring it up inside, and then I let it go. See, it tucks it right in. You can't even tell most of the time where that end of that ball is, but this is a center pull. So you just take your yarn that you put through those slits at the top, just take it off there. You just pull this up and away. The center collapse, and there is your center pull for your ball. So there's a perfectly made cake. No more messy yarn. And I'm going to do that one more time here with this blue, with this really pretty blue color. And I'll show you again. So through this big one first, then through this smaller one at the bottom, tuck it into those slits at the top, and make sure your tension is nice and taut. And I'm going to just put my finger up here to stop this from moving around, and we will wind this one up. So again, same thing. And once I get going here a little bit, I will show you one more detail of this. So when you get, I always make sure this stops at the bottom, because if you stop it up at the top, your yarn will come undone and you'll have to start over again. But see these little lines going through all the way across? This is for the size of balls. Like if you want to make your own like color changing cakes, you can go like so that it goes to like 1 line or 2 lines, and then you change the color, and then you go to the next two lines or whatever, and you can make your own color changing cakes. You just have to tie the ends together of the colors that you're using. So let's just keep going here. This one won't take long either. It's just much easier to have yarn come from the center of a ball that's not going to be tangled. And because you've already wound the whole thing, you know there's no slip knots or anything in here. So you don't have to worry about it when you're making a project with them. And these center pull balls are much easier to use if you have the knitting machines. So you don't have to worry about your ball going all over the floor or anything and rolling around. We're getting down to like the last layer of this ball. So I'm just going to start slowing down just a little bit. But I'm still going to keep it steady. Sometimes it'll go all the way to the end. Okay, so there's the end of the ball of yarn. So I'm just going to make this go all the way around so it faces me. There's my end. I'm going to take my hook again and I'm going to put it down through the edge here, out the bottom, and turn it a little bit, bring it back up through, and there you go. This one is done as well. So you take this top piece out, just let it lay on the top here so you don't lose your end. You pull it off, the center goes in, and there you go. There's your center pull all ready for you, and a neat little ball cake of yarn. So I have one more ball of yarn that I could rewind. I'm going to do this one as well. This one has a bit more yarn in it than the dark green one did, but I am going to see how big of a cake this one's going to make. This one will probably maybe fill up the machine here. So this is my light green that I'm using for my Afghan as well. So we're going to load this up again, just the way I did the other 2 times, and slip it through the top. There we go. So I have one more little tidbit. After you've wound your ball and you've put, you don't have to use it as a center cake. You can always, if you have one of those, like yarn, not like a yarn spinner, but like a stand that your yarn spins around on. I have one around here somewhere. I don't remember where though, but it's like a cone. And you can actually have your yarn come from the outside of it, but it spins on that little stand so that your yarn doesn't go all over the place either if you want to go from the outside of your yarn, depending on what color, if there's like a different color in the center than you want to use. But I can show you what you would have to do for that, but I don't have it with me right now. I don't remember where I put mine. But you take the tip of your cone and you take this piece out after you've done winding it. You put your tip of your cone in here, and then as you pull your cake off onto that cone, it will go through the center of your cake, so your yarn still won't be messed up, and you can still pull from the outside of the cake, and if you don't want to do a center pull. So, and then it'll just come off of that the other way. But we're just going to do center pulls because, oh, see, sometimes that happens if it's not in properly at the top here. You have to make sure it's in nice and tight. Okay, sometimes you have to have the end a little bit more sticking out like this. And sometimes you can just bring it back again so you don't get it caught in your yarn as it's turning. So let's just go slowly to begin with till we get it going, and then it should be fine from then on. Okay, see, now we're just going to keep going. I'll put my finger up here again, and we're going to start winding. And we're going to wind this green so it's a nicer ball. And if we come across any knots or anything, we just make sure this hook that rotates around the machine is at the bottom, and you're going to undo your knot that you found. See, this is why I like rewinding my own yarn, because then you know there's no knots in it as you're crocheting or knitting with your yarn. So we're just going to keep going here. take it easy, so if I find a knot again, I can unwind it before it gets to the machine. See, there's another one that's coming undone here from the center. There we go. Just gonna take her slow when I find a knot. There we go. And we're just gonna keep going. There's another slip knot. There we go. Yeah, see, this lighter green one had way more slip knots in it than the dark green one did, but I wanted to make sure I did both balls, only to make sure that there's none in it when I'm actually working with it. But it depends on how tight you're holding your yarn as to how tight the ball of yarn is going to be too after it's rewound. It's the same as with knitting and crocheting. The more tension you put on your yarn as you're working with it, the tighter your stitches are going to be. Or if you're too loose, you won't get as much yarn on the machine as you will with a little bit tighter tension. But if you do have like rolled balls of yarn that you wanted to recake, all I would do was get a box or a tote or something, put your ball in it on the floor near you so that it'll roll around in the box and not on the floor, so it won't go anywheres. And then you can wind it all you want. But when Mama and I first got these machines, because she has one too, we actually found pretty much most of our yarn at that time, and we recaked every single, or almost every single ball of yarn that we owned, and it didn't take more than a day or two to rewind every single ball of yarn we had. And this is really good exercise for your arm as well, by the way, just like it is working with the knitting machines where you're using the crank. So you just have to be careful and go slow or take your time or whatever. And like I said, you can stop partway through this ball. Just make sure that the one that's going, yarn that's going around your cake is at the bottom, not up at the top. Or you will probably have to, you'll lose your tension, and you might have to start the whole ball over again if you can't get it back. And it will get caught around the gears and stuff too if it unwinds too much. So this one's getting down close to the beginning here. Whoops. I just want to try and go as far as I can before it starts getting into a knot, which it probably will soon. And then I'll have to make sure it's all... Okay, so I see this outside end of the yarn. I'm just trying to go as far as it can here. See, it's a little bit loose because I had to let go of my tension. But the whole ball is going to fit on this winder. Just the outside's going to be a little bit on the looser side, but that's okay. But we are getting down to like the last of the yarn here, so we're getting a knot too. So make sure you stop at the bottom. Undo this knot, and I will finish winding this last tiny little bit of yarn. See, there's my end right here. Now I'm just going to grab it, and I'm going to turn my machine around, grab my hook, and I'm going to tuck this end in the ball so that it stays and it won't come undone. Take my end out of the center, take my yarn off. There's my cake. There's my center pull right there. So there you go. That is the end of this video. I just rewound 3 balls of yarn, the light blue or the light green, the dark green, and the blue. So this is my short little video for today, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day.